The chamber was enormous, built to make visitors feel small. Stood at the center of the circular floor, looking up at the 17 thrones that surrounded him. Each throne held a representative from the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Some looked like insects. Others were made of living crystal. A few appeared almost human, but their eyes gave them away. They were ancient, cold, and utterly convinced of their superiority. Had been standing there for 3 hours. His legs ached, but he refused to show weakness. He wore the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, dark blue with silver trim. The Earth insignia on his chest seemed to catch the light from above. He held a data tablet in his hands, though he had already memorized every word of his speech. The council speaker finally raised one of its 6 arms, was 12 feet tall, covered in purple chitin that gleamed under the lights. Its voice came from a translator device that made it sound hollow and emotionless. The council has reviewed humanity's petition for membership, announced, for the 5th time. Felt his heart sink, but he kept his face neutral. 5 years of negotiations. 5 years of traveling between Earth and this citadel. 5 years of careful diplomacy, and he could already hear the rejection in that tone. "We have observed your species carefully," another council member spoke. This one was a floating sphere of energy contained in a crystal shell. "You achieved faster-than-light travel only 30 years ago. You are children in the eyes of the galaxy." "With respect," said, his voice steady, "humanity has much to offer the Council. Our technology may be young, but our ingenuity is proven. Our military is disciplined. Our scientists are brilliant. We seek only peaceful cooperation and trade." A harsh laugh echoed through the chamber. It came from a reptilian being whose scales shifted colors constantly. "Your military? You have barely 500 warships. The smallest member of this council commands 10,000. You are not peers. You are primitives playing with toys." His jaw tightened, but he continued. "We understand we are newcomers. That is why we petition humbly for membership. We wish to learn from the Council's wisdom and contribute what we can to galactic peace." "Peace?" His voice dripped with contempt. "Your species has been at war with itself for your entire recorded history. We have watched you slaughter each other over resources, territory, and beliefs we cannot even comprehend. You are violent, chaotic, and dangerous." "We have united now," argued. "Earth speaks with one voice. We have put aside our differences to reach for the stars. Is that not worthy of consideration?" The council members looked at each other, could see something in their body language, something that made his stomach turn. This was not going to end with another postponement. This was different. Stood from its throne. "The council has made its decision. Humanity's petition is not merely, it is permanently rejected. You will return to your home system and remain there. Any human vessel found beyond the Sol boundary will be destroyed without warning. Any further contact will be considered an act of war." The words hit like a physical blow, permanent rejection, isolation, everything they had worked for gone. "You cannot do this," said, his voice rising despite his training. "We are a sentient species. We have rights. We have proven ourselves peaceful in our intentions." "You have no rights here," the crystal being said. "Only species recognized by the Council have rights. You are not recognized. You are quarantined." His hands shook. He thought of the billions of people on Earth waiting for his message. He thought of the children who dreamed of exploring the galaxy. He thought of everything humanity had sacrificed to reach this moment. "If you do this," said quietly, "you will regret it. Humanity will not accept being caged. We will not bow to tyranny dressed up as governance." The chamber fell silent. Every eye, every sensor, every form of alien perception focused on him. Descended from its throne, walking toward with deliberate steps that echoed through the massive room. "Did you just threaten this council?" "I stated a fact," replied. "Humanity values freedom above all else. If you will not treat with us as equals, then we will find our own path." "Unacceptable," said. The alien was now standing directly in front of, towering over him. "The Council has maintained order in this galaxy for 70,000 years. We have done so by making examples of those who refuse to accept their place." saw the other council members activating their communication devices. They were recording this, broadcasting it. He realized with growing horror that this had been planned from the beginning. They had never intended to grant humanity's petition. This was a show trial. There is an ancient law, continued, its voice now amplified throughout the chamber and beyond. Any species that threatens the authority of the council shall face immediate sanction. You have threatened us, human, in front of all assembled witnesses. I did not begin, but raised a clawed hand. Energy crackled between its fingers, had studied the species. He knew what that energy was, a neural disruptor, painless, instant, fatal. No, said, not pleading but defiant. You are making a mistake. If you do this, there will be consequences. The only consequence, said, will be that other young species learn to show proper respect. The alien's hand moved faster than could react. The energy touched his chest, an ambassador of Earth, father of two, husband to, and humanity's greatest hope for peaceful contact, collapsed to the floor. His last thought was not of fear. It was a prayer that Earth would be wise, that they would see this for what it was, that they would not give the Council the war it clearly wanted, but did not know his people as well as he thought he did. The broadcast of his execution reached every corner of Council space within minutes. It was meant to inspire fear and obedience. Instead, it reached Earth 18 hours later, traveling through the relay stations at the speed of light. When President Minu saw the video, he watched it 3 times in silence. Then he stood from his desk, walked to the window of his office and looked out at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives, unaware that everything had just changed. Minu picked up his secure communicator and spoke 4 words that would echo through history. Activate the protocol. Across Earth, in bunkers buried deep beneath mountains, in laboratories hidden on the dark side of the moon, in shipyards orbiting Mars, systems began to wake up. Systems that had been built in secret for 20 years. Systems designed for one purpose only. Humanity had been preparing for this day since their first encounter with the Council. They had hoped it would never come. But they had never stopped preparing. The galaxy was about to learn that executing an envoy was not a show of strength. It was a declaration of war. And humanity had been preparing for this war since the moment they learned they were not alone in the universe. The video had been playing on every screen across Earth for 6 hours. People gathered in the streets, in their homes, in public spaces, watching Ambassador die over and over again. Some wept, some raged, but most just watched in stunned silence. In the underground command center beneath Geneva, the mood was different. There was no weeping here, no shock, only cold, calculated fury and decades of preparation finally being unleashed. Admiral Park stood before a holographic display that showed the entire Sol system. Every ship, every station, every defense platform was marked in blue. He was 60 years old, with gray hair cut military short and eyes that had seen things most humans would never know about. He had spent 20 years preparing for this exact moment. Status report, he said calmly. All fleets responding to protocol activation, replied Captain Lee, his second in command. She was younger, in her 30s, but she had been selected for this command because of her tactical brilliance and her absolute lack of hesitation when hard decisions needed to be made. The stealth carriers are moving into position. The relativistic missile platforms are armed and ready. Marine assault teams are boarding their transports. The array. Doctor reports all systems are operational. She says we can activate it within 12 hours if needed. Nodded. The array was their ultimate weapon, and its very existence was humanity's darkest secret. He hoped they would not need it, but hope was not a strategy. The door to the command center opened, and President Minu entered, followed by his security detail. Everyone in the room stood at attention, but Minu waved them back to their stations. Show me what we have, Minu said simply. Gestured to the holographic display. Mr. President, the extermination protocol is now fully active. All military assets are mobilized. Our intelligence networks have confirmed that the Council believes we are helpless. They expect us to either surrender or hide in our system like frightened children. They do not know about our preparations. No, sir. Everything we have built was done in absolute secrecy. The shipyards on the dark side of the moon, the weapons laboratories on Europa, the listening posts scattered throughout Council space. They think we are primitives with a few hundred basic warships. Minyu looked at the display for a long moment. How many ships do we actually have? 800 combat vessels, replied. But that number is misleading. Each of our ships is designed with technology the Council has never seen. They still use energy weapons and missiles that travel at speeds. We have relativistic kill weapons, quantum-entangled communication that cannot be intercepted, stealth technology that makes our ships invisible to their sensors, and our intelligence about them. A new figure stepped forward. Doctor was the director of the division, though that name never appeared on any official document. She was 45, with sharp features and eyes that rarely blinked. She had designed most of the weapons that would be used in the coming war. We know everything about them, said, her voice matter of fact. For 20 years, we have been studying the Council species. We know their biology, their psychology, their military tactics, their weaknesses. We have developed biological agents tailored to each species. We have psychological warfare programs designed to break their morale. We have hacked their communication networks and have access to their military planning. She manipulated the holographic display, and it changed to show detailed breakdowns of each Council species. The who executed ambassador are the Council's military arm. They have the largest fleet but also the most rigid tactical doctrine. They always attack in standard formations and refuse to adapt. We can predict their every move. The display shifted again. The Collective are the Council's oldest members. They have the most advanced technology but have not fought a real war in 10,000 years. They are soft, overconfident, and slow to respond to threats. She continued through each species, detailing their strengths and weaknesses with clinical precision. Minyu listened without interrupting. What about casualties? Minyu finally asked. On our side. And exchanged a glance. Mr. President, the protocol is designed for total war. We estimate between 30 and 40% casualties among our military forces. Civilian casualties depend on whether the Council attempts a direct attack on Earth. Will they? The Collective will try, said. Their pride will demand it, but we have turned the Sol system into a fortress. Every asteroid in the belt has been weaponized. Every approach vector is covered by defense platforms. The outer planets have hidden fleet bases. If they come here, they will bleed for every mile of space. Minyu walked closer to the display. He could see Earth there, a small blue marble surrounded by layers of defensive systems. Billions of people who had no idea what was about to happen. I need to be certain, Minyu said quietly. Is there any possibility of a diplomatic solution, any chance to de-escalate? They executed our ambassador on live broadcast, said flatly. They did so specifically to humiliate us and frighten other species into submission. They have declared that any human ship leaving the Sol system will be destroyed. This is not a misunderstanding, Mr. President. This is deliberate oppression. And our intelligence confirms what Ambassador suspected, Minyu asked, about the other species. Nodded grimly. Yes, sir. We have documented evidence of 47 species that the Council has exterminated over the past 70,000 years. Any species that refused to submit was destroyed completely. The Council maintains its power through terror and overwhelming force. Minyu closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about who he had known personally. A good man, a father, someone who had believed in the possibility of peaceful coexistence. The Council made their choice, Minyu said, opening his eyes. They chose to teach us through violence. Very well, we will teach them a lesson in return. He turned to face the assembled military leadership. You have full authorization to execute the extermination protocol. All rules of engagement are suspended. This is total war. Our objective is not to defeat the Council. Our objective is to ensure that no species ever again believes they can execute a human envoy without consequences." "Understood, sir," said. "One more thing," Minyu added. "Before we strike, I want our intelligence division to release everything we have on Council atrocities, every genocide, every species they enslaved, every crime they have committed. I want the entire galaxy to know exactly who they have been serving." Smiled coldly. "Already prepared, Mr. President. We will broadcast it through every communication channel in Council space. By the time we strike, half the Council's subject species will be in revolt." "Good," Minyu looked at each person in the room. "We did not want this war. We sought peace. We offered friendship. They responded with murder. History will judge whether what we do next is justice or vengeance. I do not care which it is. I only care that it is final." He walked to the door, then paused. "Admiral Park, you may begin operations at your discretion. Make them regret what they did to." After the president left, turned to his staff. "Captain Lee, you will lead the first strike. Take the stealth fleet to space. Target there and their 3 largest colonies. Show them what relativistic weapons can do." "Yes, sir," said, her expression unchanging. "Doctor, begin broadcasting the Council's war crimes. I want every subject species to see what their masters have done." "With pleasure," replied. "And someone get me Colonel Shin. His special operations teams are going to be very busy." As the staff dispersed to their tasks, looked one more time at the holographic display. Somewhere out there, the Council was celebrating their successful intimidation of humanity. They were congratulating themselves on maintaining order. They had no idea that human ships were already moving through toward their worlds. They had no idea that in less than 72 hours, several of their civilizations would cease to exist. War was coming to the galaxy, and humanity would teach the Council a lesson that would echo for: you do not execute envoys from a species that has spent its entire existence preparing for war. The extermination protocol was active, and nothing would stop it now. It was beautiful from orbit. 3 moons hung in the sky above cities that sprawled across entire continents. Billions of went about their lives, secure in the knowledge that their military was the strongest in the galaxy. They had ruled the Council's military forces for 15,000 years. No one had ever successfully attacked there. Captain Lee watched the planet through the of her flagship. The stealth fleet had emerged from at the edge of the system 12 hours ago. They had drifted in slowly, their advanced stealth systems making them invisible to sensors. Now they were in position. "Status?" she asked quietly. "All ships report ready," her tactical officer replied. "Relativistic missiles are armed and targeted. The defense fleet has not detected us." Could see the defense fleet on her tactical display. 3,000 warships orbiting there in standard defensive patterns. It was an impressive sight. The Council believed in showing strength. Their ships were massive, bristling with weapons, designed to intimidate as much as to fight. "How long until they detect our missile launch?" "The missiles will be traveling at 99.9% of light speed," the tactical officer said. "By the time their sensors register the launch, the missiles will impact 4 seconds later. They will have no time to react." Nodded. She felt no pleasure in what was about to happen. She felt no rage either. She felt nothing at all except the cold certainty that this was necessary. The Council had executed. They had declared that humanity would be imprisoned in their own system forever. They had threatened to destroy any human ship that dared to leave. They had made their choice. Now they would face the consequences. "All ships," she said, her voice calm and clear. "You may fire when ready." Across the stealth fleet, missile tubes opened. The missiles were small, barely larger than a human. They did not carry explosives. They did not need to. At relativistic speeds, their mass alone was enough. The missiles launched simultaneously, accelerating instantly to near light speed. The sensors picked up the energy signatures 4 seconds before impact. Alarms began to sound across the defense fleet. Ships began to power up their shields. They were 4 seconds too slow. The first missile struck a battleship near the bow. At 99.9% of light speed, the impact released energy equivalent to a 100-megaton nuclear explosion. The battleship simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. The explosion created a flash of light visible from the planet's surface. Then the rest of the missiles arrived. 300 relativistic missiles hit the defense fleet in the span of 2 seconds. Each impact was a miniature sun, briefly outshining the planet's star. Ships that had survived 10,000 years of warfare were erased from existence. The explosions merged together into a wall of fire that consumed everything in orbit. On the planet's surface, billions looked up at the sky and saw their defense fleet die in a blaze of light. Second wave ordered. This time the missiles targeted the planet itself. The stealth fleet had mapped every major city, every military installation, every government center. The missiles fell like rain. The first impacts turned capital cities into craters miles wide. The shockwaves flattened everything for hundreds of miles around each impact point. Firestorms erupted across entire continents. The planet's atmosphere began to burn. Watch it all with cold eyes. The tactical display showed each impact, each city destroyed, each million lives ended. She did not look away. She had ordered this. She would witness it. "Broadcast the message," she said. Across every communication channel in Council space, a message began to play. It showed execution, then cut to footage of prime burning. A human voice spoke in perfect. "You executed our envoy. We execute your civilization. This is the consequence of your actions. This is what happens when you threaten humanity. Any council member who wishes to survive should surrender immediately. You have 48 hours to respond. After that, we will continue our work." The message repeated in every council language. Then it ended with one final image, the Earth insignia, and beneath it, 2 words in every language. "Never again." Across the galaxy, the council members received the message in shocked silence. Though the strongest military power in the council had been destroyed in less than an hour, there was burning. Their fleet was gone. Billions were dead. And humanity was just beginning. On a hidden station deep in council space, Colonel Shin watched the same broadcast with satisfaction. He commanded the Special Operations Forces that had spent 20 years infiltrating council space. His teams were everywhere, invisible, waiting. "All teams," he spoke into his secure communicator, "execute Phase 2. Across 1,000 worlds, human operatives activated hidden programs in council communication networks. Suddenly, every screen in council space began showing something new. Evidence. Thousands of years of evidence. The galaxy watched as the truth about the council was revealed. Videos of species being exterminated for refusing to submit, records of genocides, testimony from survivors, proof that the council maintained its power through terror and murder. Species that had served the council foresaw the truth for the first time. The council had lied to them. The council had told them they were partners, but the evidence showed they were prisoners. Any species that had ever questioned the council's authority had been destroyed. On the planet IV, a species called the had served the council for 8,000 years. They had fought the council's wars, built the council's stations, and believed they were part of something greater. Now they watched as evidence showed that the council had exterminated the sister species 3,000 years ago for asking too many questions. Within hours, they began to revolt. They seized council installations on their world. They broadcast messages of support to humanity. The same thing happened on dozens of worlds. The subject species of the council realized they had been slaves all along, and humanity had just shown them that the council could be defeated. Back on flagship, the tactical officer reported, "Captain, we are detecting movement from the council fleets. The collective is mobilizing their main battle fleet. Intelligence estimates 10,000 ships. Heading toward Earth, ma'am." Smiled coldly. "Of course, they cannot attack our fleet because they cannot find us, so they will try to destroy how predictable. Should we pursue?" "No, Admiral Park has planned for this. Let them come to Earth. They will find a surprise waiting for them. She looked at the one last time. Prime was still burning. The planet that had dominated the galaxy for 15,000 years was now a tomb. Future generations would see this and remember what happened when you executed a human envoy. Helm, set course for the border. We have more work to do. The stealth fleet vanished into, leaving behind only destruction and a message that echoed across the galaxy. The Council had started this war by killing one human. Humanity was ending it by killing entire civilizations. The Extermination protocol was in full effect, and the galaxy was learning that humanity did not forgive. They did not forget, and they did not stop until their enemies were dust. The council speaker, who had personally executed, sat in his private chamber watching the reports come in. His was gone. His fleet was destroyed. His civilization was dying. He finally understood the mistake he had made. Humans were not primitives. They were predators who had been pretending to be prey. They had come to the council offering peace, knowing the offer would be rejected. They had prepared for this war before they ever sent their first envoy. And now they were going to burn the entire galaxy to teach their lesson. Reached for his personal communicator with a trembling claw. He needed to warn the other council members. But as he activated the device, the screen showed only static. The humans had severed all council communications. They were alone, isolated, just like they had tried to do to humanity. The irony was not lost on him as he waited for the next wave of missiles to arrive. The fleet emerged from at the edge of the Sol system like an ancient god of war. 10,000 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They had crossed half the galaxy to reach this moment. They would crush Earth and end humanity's rebellion once and for all. Or so they believed. Admiral Park watched their arrival from the command center on Mars. The display showed every ship as a red dot against the black of space. 10,000 red dots. Against humanity's 800 ships, it should have been no contest. They are moving in standard formation, Captain reported from the tactical station. He was young for his rank, only 30, but he had trained his entire life for this battle. They are heading directly for Earth. No scouts, no advanced screening. They believe their numbers are enough. They always do, said quietly. Status of our defensive network. All asteroid fortifications are online. The belt defense platforms are ready. The hidden fleet bases are standing by. Every mine, every missile, every trap we have spent 20 years building is active. And the civilian evacuation. Everyone who wanted to leave has been moved to the underground shelters. The orbital stations have been evacuated. Earth is as ready as it will ever be. Nodded. He had overseen the transformation of the Sol system into a fortress. Every rock, every piece of ice, every grain of dust had been turned into a weapon. The thought they were attacking a primitive. They were actually entering a killing field. Let them come, he said. When they reach the belt, activate the first line. The fleet advanced at steady speed, their confidence absolute. They had not lost a battle in 10,000 years. Their ships were powered by ancient technology that humanity could barely understand. Their weapons could crack planets. Their shields could withstand any attack. Or so they thought. When the fleet reached the belt, Admiral gave the order. Across billions of miles of space, thousands of asteroids that had been floating peacefully for suddenly came to life. Engines hidden inside them fired. Weapons ports opened. The asteroids began moving toward the fleet. They detected the movement immediately. Their sensors showed thousands of objects accelerating toward them. They prepared to fire, expecting simple kinetic weapons. Instead, the asteroids exploded while still thousands of miles away. But they were not simple explosions. Each asteroid contained hundreds of smaller weapons, each one intelligent and independent. Swarm drones, humanity called them. They used quantum entanglement to coordinate with each other, making them impossible to jam. They were small enough to evade point defense systems, and there were millions of them. The swarm hit the fleet like a cloud of angry insects. Individual drones were harmless against the massive ships, but they did not work individually. They coordinated their attacks, finding weak points in shields, exploiting gaps in armor. Thousands of drones would focus on a single ship, drilling through its defenses layer by layer until they reached vital systems. The first battleship died when drones breached its reactor core. The explosion took out 3 nearby ships. Then another ship fell. Then another. They tried to adapt, but the drones were learning faster than they could respond. Second line ordered. The Neptune station activated. It looked like a simple research facility, but it was actually a massive the size of a small moon. It fired projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, each one targeted at a ship's exact position. The projectiles tore through the fleet like bullets through paper. Ships that had survived for 10,000 years were split in half. They tried to scatter, but that only made them easier targets for the third line of defense. The third line was the fleet that had been hiding in the shadow of Jupiter. Human warships emerged from concealment and attacked the scattered forces. The battle became chaos as human ships used their superior speed and maneuverability to dart in and out of the formation. But they were not defeated. They were too numerous, too powerful. They pushed forward, accepting losses that would have broken any other fleet. They were determined to reach Earth. "They are breaking through," reported. "Estimate 3,000 ships will make it to Earth orbit." Watched as the red dots on his display slowly approached the blue dot that was Earth. 3,000 ships, still more than enough to destroy the planet. "Activate the inner defense grid," he said calmly. Around Earth, thousands of defense platforms that had been disguised as satellites came online. The moon revealed hidden missile batteries. Mars launched its entire garrison fleet. The space between Earth and its attackers filled with fire. But still they came. They lost hundreds more ships than thousands, but they would not stop. Their pride would not allow retreat. Their honor demanded that Earth burn. When the first ships entered Earth orbit, people on the ground could see the flashes of battle overhead. The shields protecting the planet glowed as enemy weapons struck them. For a moment, it seemed they would win through sheer determination. Then Doctor activated the array. Deep in the hidden facility on Europa, the massive machines that had taken 20 years to build roared to life. They were humanity's ultimate weapon, built on principles of physics that the Council had never imagined. They could tear holes in the fabric of space itself. The array created weaponized black holes then used quantum calculations to make those black holes emerge at precise locations in normal space, like creating doorways to nowhere. The first black hole appeared inside a battleship. The ship was sucked into the singularity instantly, crushed to the size of an atom. Then another appeared, and another. Across the galaxy, the array opened doorways to oblivion. In the home system, black holes appeared inside space stations, shipyards, and orbital fortresses. The core worlds, which had stood for 100,000 years, were consumed. Entire planets were pulled into gravity wells that left nothing behind. The fleet around Earth saw their die on their displays. They saw their civilization end in real time. And still they fought, because there was nothing else left for them to do. Admiral watched the battle with grim satisfaction. The fleet was down to a few hundred ships now. They were fighting with the fury of a dying species, but they were still dying. "Sir," said quietly, "we are receiving surrender signals from other council members. 5 more civilizations are offering unconditional surrender." "Accept their surrenders," replied. "Order our fleets to cease offensive operations against those species, but maintain defensive posture." And looked at the last few dozen ships still fighting desperately above Earth. They were the last of their kind. When they fell, the species would be extinct. "No quarter," he said. "They came here to exterminate us. Let them share the fate they intended for humanity." The final ship died 3 hours later. Its crew fought until their weapons ran dry, then tried to ram a human cruiser. They failed. The ship was destroyed by point defense fire, and its wreckage fell toward the sun. The Battle of Saul was over. Humanity had been outnumbered 10 to 1 and had won. The cost was high. 200 human ships were lost. 50,000 soldiers and crew were dead. But Earth survived, and the galaxy had learned that attacking humanities was suicide. Stood and looked at the display showing Earth, still blue and peaceful despite the battle that had raged in orbit. Send a message to all human forces. The defensive battle is complete. Begin Phase 3 of the protocol. Hunt down any remaining Council forces. Show no mercy. Across the galaxy, human fleets began their final operations. Species that had not surrendered were hunted systematically. The Council's infrastructure was destroyed. Their weapons were seized. Their leaders were found and arrested. The war that had started with the execution of one envoy was ending with the extinction of multiple civilizations and the surrender of dozens more. And humanity, the species the Council had thought was primitive and weak, now stood as the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The Extermination Protocol had worked exactly as designed. The Council Citadel looked different now. The grand chamber where 17 species had once sat in judgment was half destroyed. Scorch marks covered the walls where human marines had fought the last defenders. The thrones that had symbolized 70,000 years of galactic order sat empty and broken. President Minu walked slowly across the floor where had died 6 months ago. His footsteps echoed in the vast space. Behind him, a small group of advisors followed silently. Admiral Park was there, looking tired but satisfied. Doctor walked beside him, her expression as neutral as ever. Colonel Shin and Captain Lee brought up the rear. They stopped at the center of the chamber. Minu could still see the scorch mark where the energy weapon had struck down. He knelt and touched it gently. "We won," he said quietly, "but at what cost?" 5 Council civilizations are extinct, replied factually. 8 have surrendered unconditionally. 4 are still fighting insurgencies, but our forces are hunting them down. Total casualties on the human side are estimated at 90,000 military personnel and 12,000 civilians from the attack on our outer colonies. Minu stood and looked at the empty thrones. And how many of them did we kill? Approximately 40 billion across all Council species, said without hesitation. Most of those were on the we targeted. 40 billion. The number was too large to truly comprehend. Minu had authorized every strike, signed every order, and made every hard decision. The blood was on his hands as much as anyone's. Was it worth it? He asked, though he was not sure who he was asking. They executed our envoy, said. They threatened to destroy any human who left our system. They would have kept us imprisoned forever or exterminated us if we resisted. You did what was necessary to ensure humanity's survival. Necessary, Minu repeated. The word tasted bitter. We became exactly what we were fighting against. We exterminated entire species. No, said firmly. We exterminated species that would have exterminated us. We gave them chances to surrender. The ones who died are the ones who chose to fight to the end. Some of them fought because they had no choice, Minu argued. Some of them were just following orders from their leaders. Then their leaders killed them, said coldly, not us. Minu sighed. He knew they were right, but it did not make him feel better. He had hoped, when humanity first reached the stars, that they would find friends and partners. Instead, they had found tyrants and had been forced to become something terrible to survive. The delegates are waiting, reminded him gently. Minu nodded, let them in. The doors to the chamber opened and representatives from 60 different species entered. Some walked, some floated, some slithered. All of them looked at the humans with a mixture of fear and hope. These were the species that had survived, the ones who had surrendered when humanity demanded it, the ones who had revolted against the Council when the truth was revealed, the ones who had stayed neutral and watched as the galaxy burned. They gathered before Minu, and to his surprise they knelt, all of them. 60 species, representing trillions of beings, knelt before humanity. No, Minu said sharply, stand up all of you. They looked confused but slowly stood. An elderly being from the species stepped forward. Her name was, and she had led her people's revolt against the council. "We kneel because we are defeated," said. "You have conquered the galaxy. You are the new council. We await your judgment." Minyu shook his head. "We are not the new council. We did not fight this war to become tyrants. We fought because we were given no choice." He gestured to his advisors, and they placed a large holographic projector on the floor. It activated, showing a document that had been prepared over the past month. "This is the Terran Accord," Minyu said. "It is not a surrender document. It is a treaty. Any species can join as equal partners. The rules are simple and non-negotiable." The holographic display showed the key points. Minyu read them aloud. First, no species may subjugate another. All civilizations are sovereign within their own territory. Second, disputes between species will be settled through arbitration, not war. A neutral court will be established to handle conflicts. Third, any species that attempts genocide or slavery will face the full military might of all treaty members. Fourth, no envoys, ambassadors, or diplomats may be harmed for any reason. They are sacred and untouchable. He paused and looked at the assembled delegates. "And finally, humanity will enforce these rules absolutely. We have shown what we are capable of when threatened. We will show the same resolve if these rules are broken." Looked at the document carefully, "And if we refuse to sign?" "Then you are free to leave," Minyu said. "We will not attack you. We will not threaten you. But you will have no protection from us, and you will not be allowed to trade or communicate with treaty members. You will be isolated but free." The delegates looked at each other, communicating in their various ways. Finally spoke again. "The old council ruled through fear and violence. You are offering us a choice, but you are also threatening violence if we break your rules. How is this different?" Minyu considered his answer carefully. "The old council punished species for refusing to submit. We punish species for harming others. The old council kept secrets and lied about their crimes. We have released all our intelligence files. Every species can see exactly what the council did and what we did in response. The old council gave you no choice. We are giving you one right now. A choice between joining your treaty or being alone in a galaxy you control," said. "Yes," Minyu admitted. "We will not pretend otherwise. We have the strongest military in the galaxy. We could rule as tyrants if we wished, but we do not wish it. We want partners, not subjects. We want peace, not endless war, but we will not allow another council to rise and threaten us or anyone else." Another delegate, a crystalline being from the Silex Union, spoke up. "What about justice for what you did? 40 billion dead, entire species extinct. Will you face judgment for these crimes?" "We will," Minyu said, surprising everyone. "That is part of the treaty. A war crimes tribunal will be established. Any human who violated the rules of war will face trial. Any order I gave that was excessive will be examined. I will testify myself if needed. And if you are found guilty, then I will accept the sentence," Minyu said simply. "We did terrible things to win this war. We will not hide from that truth." The delegates were silent for a long moment, then slowly stepped forward. "The will sign the Terran Accord. We have seen what the alternative is." One by one, the other delegates came forward. Some signed eagerly, some signed reluctantly. But by the end of the day, 58 of the 60 species had joined the treaty. The 2 who refused were allowed to leave peacefully, as promised. That night, Minyu stood on the observation deck of the Citadel, looking out at the stars. Found him there. "You should feel proud," the Admiral said. "We won. Humanity is safe. The galaxy is at peace." "Peace through threat of annihilation," Minyu replied. "Is that really peace?" "It is the only peace that works with predators," said. "The old council understood that. They just became the predators themselves. We have to be better than they were." "Can we be, after what we did?" Was quiet for a moment. "I do not know, but I know that if we had not done it, humanity would be extinct right now. And I know that the species joining our treaty have a real chance at freedom, which is more than they had under the council." Minyu nodded slowly. "What about the weapons, the array, the biological agents, the relativistic missiles?" Doctor is decommissioning most of them as we speak, but not all of them. We need to keep some capability in reserve. In case we need to do this again. In case someone else tries to do to us what the Council did, said firmly. Far across the galaxy on Earth, construction crews were finishing a memorial. It stood in Geneva, in the plaza outside the government buildings. A statue of larger than life, looking up at the stars with hope in his eyes. At the base of the statue, an inscription was carved in every known language. Ambassador who sought peace and found death. His murder began the war that ended tyranny. May we honor his memory by building the peace he dreamed of. And below that, one final line. Never again. Doctor stood in her laboratory, looking at the controls for the array. Most of it was being shut down, as ordered, but not all. She was keeping enough capability to destroy a star system if needed. A young scientist, fresh from the academy, approached her nervously. Doctor, will we ever need these weapons again? Looked at the controls for a long moment. I hope not, but hope is not a strategy. We built these weapons because we knew the galaxy was dangerous. We used them because we were proven right. Now we keep them because we learned our lesson. What lesson is that? That peace is not natural. Peace is not guaranteed. Peace is maintained by those willing to do terrible things to defend it. The Extermination Protocol was our promise to ourselves. Never again would humanity be victims. Never again would we allow others to threaten our existence. She turned off the main power, leaving only the backup systems active. We showed the galaxy what happens when they harm us. Now we show them what happens when they work with us. If we do this right, these weapons will rust away unused for 10,000 years. And if we do it wrong, smiled coldly, then the next tyrant who rises will learn the same lesson the Council learned. You do not threaten humanity. You do not execute our envoys. You do not try to cage us or control us. She walked toward the door, then paused. Because if you do, we will not just defeat you. We will erase you from history. That is our promise. That is our burden. And that is why the galaxy will have peace. The young scientist watched her leave, then looked at the dormant weapons systems. Somewhere in the galaxy, species that had once enslaved others were now free. Species that had lived in fear were now protected. And at the center of it all was humanity, the species that had been underestimated, threatened, and pushed to the edge. The species that had pushed back and changed everything. The Extermination Protocol was officially deactivated, but everyone knew it could be activated again if needed. And that knowledge would keep the peace for a very long time.